And always so great to be back at Bay Hill, where the spirit of Arnold Palmer remains as strong as ever.
If you talk to anyone who was involved in the game over the last 50 years, you know, they'll say Arnold Palmer was a game changer. He was the king.
Having Mr. Palmer's name on it and being able to go back to a place that he loves so much and compete is very special for us as players.
Bay Hill and Arnold Palmer are just so obviously synonymous with each other. He created a place here where the best players in the world could come and play a really elite golf tournament.
What a finish for McIlroy! It is Jason Day, wire to wire.
Congratulations. Thanks a lot, sir.
Their hat just hit the turf with authority. Again at Bay Hill. The field bracing again for what will be a most challenging week again at Bay Hill, just the way the king loved it.
There's danger lurking everywhere. It tests quality of strike, tests patience. As much as it tests your physical skills, it tests your mental skills as well.
It's a place that you get to play against the best, just kind of how he would want it to be. It's always a great test of golf, which I know he would appreciate.
Golf Channel and the PGA Tour proudly present On the Range, live at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, presented as always by Mastercard. The fourth of 8 signature events on the PGA Tour schedule, and this is a special one. Central Florida, there is Bay Hill, the course and club that the king, Arnold Palmer, made famous. Never far from our minds, as 69 of the world's best will tee it up this week for the right to call themselves champion. There you see the range, the putting green, populated with all of the players getting set for their tee times on Thursday morning. The current conditions here in Central Florida, pretty nice. 75 degrees, humidity, well, it is Florida, as it were. We'll be here for the next 90 minutes, getting you set for tomorrow's event, and all the players come here, and that man is the reason why. The king, Arnold Palmer. Joining me today, Will McKenzie and Mark Emmelman, and on the ground in Orlando, doing interviews for us today, of course, a man who is synonymous with Arnold Palmer, Mr. Robert Dammer. All right, let's bring you inside and give you a proper hello, and I'm very excited. I am Jonathan Coach from The Coach, Will McKenzie, Mark Emmelman, and Will, let's start with you. This is always a special week. It's a signature event. It's the API. We're into March. The players feel it.
Yeah, they sure do. It's Arnold Palmer's event. Everybody, he's so revered in the whole golf course, pro golf game. He was one of the trailblazers. Everybody loves API. They love coming here, but also because this golf course is a stern test of golf. I actually didn't love it because it beat the living bricks off me. So, hey, it was fun, though.
It's interesting that you say that because, Mark, there's a lot of players that some like playing a course where you got to have minus 20 or higher to win. That's not going to be this course or this week, is it?
Yeah, not there, and I echo every sentiment that Will said there. This is a major championship test, but for me this event is personal. You know, as a young man growing up in South Africa in 1984, this event, Bay Hill, was the first one I saw on television. I'll never forget Gary Koch won. Then 3 years later, Payne Stewart dueled against my then mentor and hero, David Frost. So it's always been personal. So when I got to come to the States, go to Orlando, go to Bay Hill, it's sort of like I was overcome. This place was everything I dreamed it was going to be. Now fast forward, now I get to call it. My parents live around the corner in Dr. Phillips. This event is not just great for the players, it's great for the greater Orlando community. And as I say, to me, it's just very special.
That is really, really cool. Now, speaking of special, this is the fourth of 8 signature events so far in this season. Here are the winners. We go back to how the season started out in Hawaii. Chris Kirk getting it done in the sunshine. And then in a rain-shortened event, 54 holes, Wyndham Clark winning out at Pebble Beach. And then in what JT Poston called the greatest round that he's ever seen with his own 2 eyes, Hideki Matsuyama got it done at the Genesis with a closing 62. And what an amazing round and performance that was at Tiger's event. This is Arnie's. And of course, the Memorial is a signature event later with Jack as well. Now, speaking of Hideki, Mark, let's start with you. He's out on the range right now.
Yeah, and I was fortunate you referenced Wyndham Clark and Hideki Matsuyama. So yours truly was on golf course alongside the two of them for those incredible rounds of 60 and 62. And I joined Hideki. He had just birdied 12, long-range bomb that he holed, and he had an awesome shot under the trees onto the green on 13. But then on 15 and 16, he had two of the most majestic iron shots, a 6-iron into the wind on 15, then this carved up 8-iron to the tiny green on 16, the par 3. And collectively, the balls were 2 feet from the hole. Kick-in birdies, then he birdied 17 for 62. And I was just thankful to get to see it with my own 2 eyes. Then I catch up with him after, and he goes, you know, I really didn't hit the ball that well. And I was like, are you serious? But that just speaks to who he is and kind of where the golf swing is, Will. I feel like it's more timed. The pause at the top is a little less drastic. His legs are more underneath him. And when he's at full flight, man, he hits the center of the club face often.
Yeah, he's a ball striking animal. And that shot of 15 might have been one of the best shots of the year. Maybe the century, Chris Kirk coming down the stretch, hitting that 5-iron. But that shot to that back hole location is impossible to get to. So, yeah, Hideki, like you said, full flight. He's always a favorite.
He's just so disciplined, Coach. If you watch him go about the craft on the range, and you and I were talking at the top of the show where, you know, what practice is one thing, but real purpose-driven practice is another. And he is a stickler for fundamentals. You'll watch him check in ball position, alignment, all those nuanced things that are kind of boring, yet he doesn't leave any stone unturned. And so when you're in position with that stuff, then you set the wheels in motion for a good and repeatable golf swing under pressure. Because if you're out of position at the start, the rest of it is doomed for one or other compensation to get the ball to go where you want it to go.
This is the second of 4 events on the Florida Swing. Of course, next week is the Players Championship that all the players would love to win. But we were talking last week, Will, about the Cognizant, and they kind of made that course a little bit easier, I guess, because of how difficult this week is going to be, and they don't want to have so many really difficult tests in a row. There's no way to make this course easy.
No, there isn't. If they make that rough deep out here, this course is brutal. You see him, there's something going on in his right hip a little bit. You see him stretching it out, probably just, you know, a little tweak there. He'll warm that up. But the golf course at PGA National, I've played it hundreds of times, and the champ can play so brutal. They took out some bunkers on 6. They turned 10 into a par 5. You know, they tried to alleviate a little bit of that stress because you get in the Florida swing and it turns into just absolute carnage, especially if the weather's tough. So they got lucky with the weather at PGA National, and it played much easier.
You're watching Hideki there stretch on that hip. Let's not forget that this is a guy that had a lot of time off last season for the neck injury, and it's amazing how everything down the center of your being, you know, from your head down your spine, that affects everything in your body because of the central nervous system. So I hope this is just minor, because he looked well when I saw him a couple of weeks ago in Los Angeles.
Well, let me chime in here. When I think of regular golfers, you don't think of like it being that brutal on your body. But professional golf is something totally different than a guy that's playing a weekend warrior or a weekend chop. These guys are hitting hundreds and hundreds of golf balls a day, and it wears you out. And this is a very strong human being. From the waist down, if you see him with
legs
shorts,
like tree trunks.
legs are so strong. He puts you in a figure 4, you'd be toast.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because at the speed they go, when you're colliding with the ground, that's like 2 immovable objects colliding with each other. So it puts a lot of stress on the professional body when you swing a golf club.
Well, right now you can see that Hideki's really struggling with that swing out there, at least as far as the ball striking and the ball flight is concerned. So as far as in this tournament, some of his best finishes back in 16, tied for 6, but then other than that, he struggled to get inside the top 15.
Yeah, but all those are threatening. You know, that tie for 6, -11, that means he's doing a lot right here, just can't get over the hump, so to speak.
Well, there is one of the great young players. Already multiple wins on tour is Tom Kim. And Mark, we know he moved to the States, moved to the Dallas area. Guys like Scheffler and Spieth have taken him under his wing. But now he's past being the rookie player. He's past being that guy. And I think he wants to be considered one of the best, not just one of the best liked guys.
No doubt. Part of the move to the Dallas-Fort Worth area was you get to play with a lot of good golfers, as you point out. But he's hooked up with Chris Como here over the last few months, and I feel like they've made some really sound adjustments to his golf swing. Nothing drastic. You know, you just try and get the right hip a bit deeper going back. The coil is a bit more in position so the arms can get more in front of him. And I got to tell you, I had him for a round last week down at the Cognizant Classic for PGA Tour Live, and he moved some drives out there. And before the final round, he and Paul Tesori and I had just a brief catch up, and I was like, Tom, if you were stuck, I'd call you trending. And he's like, yeah, it's going in the right direction. But he said so with a smile on his face, as if to say, look, I'm in command, I'm in control of what I'm doing, I like where I'm going, and for a professional golfer, that's key.
Yeah, that's all you need. Once you start believing it, that little minor tweak that he and Chris are probably working on, like you said, a little deeper right hip, well, that changes your backswing a little bit and how you start the downswing for your delivery. So once you start timing that up, that is a huge key, and that is very modern golf now. It's basically throwback to what they used to do.
And we see Paul Tesori there, who's worked for Webb Simpson and Cameron Young, and now Tom
Vijay
Kim.
Singh.
Yeah, Vijay, exactly. And so Paul says to me, he goes, hey, my wife recorded a call you made on television about us. I'm like, oh, really? What was that? He goes, apparently you said, look, Paul's job is really easy right now because you just point your guy in that direction with the right club and you say swing away, and that's kind of how it's going. So this combination right here, I feel like are primed for a good week around a difficult golf course.
I also think if you look at his body right now, he's really starting to take his fitness a little bit more seriously, getting in better shape, Will?
We noticed that at the beginning of this season. He definitely looked, I'd say, 5 to 10 pounds less. He was a little, had that baby fat last year, which is classic, played great with it. But as these guys come out here and start grinding and working out, and you're playing back-to-back weeks, he's going to lose a little weight. So you've seen it. He's chiseled up a little bit. And Paul Tesori is the hardest working man out there.
Well, Tom Kim continues to work on the range. We're going to be here until 1 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon and take a look at all the players that show up as they get set for the Arnold Palmer Invitational, the fourth signature event of the season. And you can see they're out there grinding. And never forget, elevated purse, $4 million to the winner as well. So we're just getting started. Mark, Will, Robert Dameron on site for interviews. I am the coach. Stick and stay. We're on the range on the Golf Channel. Welcome back to On the Range. Mark, Will, and the coach. Let's go back to 2018, Mark, and Rory McIlroy. What a final round he had.
I've gotten to see a lot of good rounds with my own two eyes. I was on the call for PGA Tour radio back in the day on this round, and to me, this is one of the best I've ever seen.
What a closing scenario he had. That was 13. This is 14 for birdie.
Tough par 3. Anything on the green's always good. 3's always good. 2's a bonus.
Then the very next hole, this from off the green. And sometimes you need these things to happen if you want to raise a trophy.
15's a brutal par 4. He was in trouble off the tee, second to here, and this was just dandy.
And a man who took a while to show up to the API, but now he's in double-digit straight starts. So now here on the 16th, the par 5, Mark.
It's just a long par 4 for the field, really, especially Rory. Found the green in 2, rolled it down to here. This just the kick-in birdie 4.
Then how many great highlights over the years have we had at the 18th? I would say the iconic 18th, and this is part of them.
Well, he had a few shots to play with at this stage. He was up by a couple, I believe it was, so 2 putts would have sufficed. 1 was even better.
He has only finished outside of the top 13 once at this particular course, so he loves it, and we expect him to have another good week. It's pretty good, right?
Well, the way he was playing last week, bar a bulky putter down in West Palm Beach, I feel like he could have been a part of the storyline. But you come here, and Will, you can speak to this. You just get a sense to, if you go back to a place where you're comfy, you know, the sight lines work, you feel like everything starts to flow, you start seeing the lines on the greens, and then it's back to business.
Well, it seems like only great players win here. Tiger Woods winning, what, 8 times? You could see Rory come up for maybe another victory coming this week, I would think.
So here's some of the notable pairings for round 1. We start our coverage on ESPN Plus PGA Tour Live at 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time. And there's some players you expect, but then, Mark, you see a guy like Ludwig Åberg, and a year ago he was down there in Lubbock playing at Texas Tech, and now he's in these signature events.
Second go-around in this tournament. The first time he played as an amateur, as an invitee, being a part of the International Arnold Palmer Cup winning team. Well, I think they won, but the Arnold Palmer Cup team, so second go-around. When he came here as an amateur, he's coming here as the 11th ranked player in the world, and he is like flushes only. So I think the lack of experience will not hurt Ludwig at all.
And there is Chris Kirk, who won the first signature event of the season out there in Hawaii. And, Will, here's a guy who really has found his game once again. He's not super long, but he's very, very precise, which is what you need on this golf course.
When you see that ball striking, he's 24th. Chris hits the ball really well. That's Eric Cole over his left shoulder, the Arnold Palmer Rookie of the Year last year, I believe. And, you know, Chris just goes about his business. It's just, does it seem like he's doing anything that great except hitting tight draws over and over and over again? And that's a good recipe to play well. Kenny Perry sure did it. Was a little one-dimensional in that aspect. Scott Hamilton on the bag. I mean, Scott Hamilton is his coach.
Well, you know what? You make such a good point as you watch him. He was a victim of what I call a high school hook. When he was a young man, the thing would turn too much, but he's worked hard on just mitigating that draw. And oftentimes I feel like the professional will, and I'd love you to chime in, they sometimes try and overdo things. Where I would, when I was advising them, I'd rather you just hit one shot really well than hit two shots kind of average. And this guy has the baby draw, basically, as reliably as what the sun rises in the morning. That's how good he is from tee through green.
Well, you're exactly right, and I like it. I think if I would go back on my somewhat, if I call it a career, wasn't really a career, but I would say I would have gotten a little more one-dimensional, as you said, and own that shot. Really own it, because coming down in, coming in pressure down to the wire, you have to own that shot.
Well, that's Chris Kirk. Our next shot, you can see our tracer technology is provided by TrackMan. There you can see that little tight draw you guys are talking about.
If you want a lesson in swing rhythm and tempo, we'll put this thing on a loop as well and let that just feed your soul, because it's unreal. Whether he's with wedge or driver, it's the same rhythm, it's the same cadence, it's the same balance. There's never ever a sense of urgency in the golf swing, and then between shots, he's exactly the same dude. With the speed he walks, the speed he talks. it's uncanny just the rhythm that this man oozes.
Really cool story that came out last week that he started doing and the other players have really bought in is he'll get an Airbnb and he'll pay for it, and then he'll send out a text to 7 or 8 guys who wants to be a part of it, and then they text him, they split it up, and then if one player in the house wins that particular week, then they pay for the whole thing. And they said it's been great. They play cards, they play pool, they play ping pong, and it's a way to not have to stay in a hotel by yourself, not be isolated, which all of us who've traveled knows how that can be.
I love that. You know, we weren't doing that back in the days. It really wasn't Airbnbs. But, you know, guys would rent houses periodically, but it was only the elite. These guys are all elite, but they've got their little group. Denny McCarthy's in it. Sepp Straka's in it. Brendan Todd's in there.
A lot of the Georgia guys.
Yeah.
Not allowed to talk about Gator sports if you stay in that house.
Well, here are the current FedEx Cup standings, and I tell you what, they are all here this week. Matthew Pavol, who won at the Farmer, Scottie Scheffler, his last 3 starts, T4, first, T15 at this event, so let's keep an eye on him.
Does he ever finish outside the top 10?
Not very often.
No.
Well, this man right here, Minwoo Lee, finished tied for 2nd last week, and when we come back, we're going to talk to the young man, and one of the guys to my right might be picking him this week. That's a tease. This is On the Range. Time now for Going for the Green, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's say hello to Golf Bet lead Will Gray on site. And Will, let's start right there at the top. A winning bet. Who's going to raise the trophy come Sunday night, sir?
Yeah, Coach, we've been in a year of long shots, as you know, this season on the PGA Tour. I don't know that we're going to see a 100-to-1 winner this week, but I also am not going to back some of the favorites on top of the board. I'm going a little further down. How about Max Homa, plus 2,800? There are 2 things that we know about Bay Hill. First of all, it emphasizes tee to green prowess, and also it's one of the most predictive courses on the PGA Tour. If you play well here, you usually play well here every year, and conversely, if you haven't figured it out, you're probably not going to figure it out this year. Homa, 4 straight top 25s at this event. The price is a little higher than you might expect because he's been struggling on the greens. He is not up to his usual self with the putter so far on the West Coast. I think that could change this week. His tee to green prowess will shine, and I think that's a great price for a proven winner like Max Homa.
I think that's really, really good value at plus 2,800, Will, but I want better value. Give me a name that you still like that maybe is north of, I don't know, plus 5,000?
You always need more, Coach. You always want a little bit more. How about Keegan Bradley, plus 5,500? I really like Keegan this week, and there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, he played well here early in his career, finished second and third, and he's coming in off of 3 straight T11 finishes at Bay Hill. But there are 2 aspects with his irons that I really am impressed by. First of all, he's leading the tour this year in proximity from the fairway. When he finds the fairway, he's hitting it close. And also, he has one of the highest trajectories with his irons on tour. That's going to be a big factor this week when the greens firm up, or if you're trying to hit these greens out of the rough. Clearly, this is a course where he has an affinity. There's a correlation. I like to lean into that, as we said, and I think that this is a guy, again, he lost in the playoff earlier this year at the Sony Open. He's playing well on the West Coast. I think Keegan Bradley definitely has a chance to win this golf tournament. Plus 5,500, I'm all over it.
Yeah, only 69 players. That's even better value than in a normal week. Now, head-to-head matchups. I like to call them, Will, our bread and butter. You only got to beat one other dude over 72 holes. Where are you going with this one?
Let me tell you a little story about Emiliano Grillo. Last year at this event, over the last 36 holes, he was plus 7.7 strokes tee to green, and he was minus 7.9 strokes with the putter. That is a split that would make Scottie Scheffler blush. I think that that can turn around in a big way this week for Grillo, who is a ball striker. Anyone that can win at Colonial can win at Bay Hill. He finished T39 last year despite those putting woes, and that's actually his worst result at Bay Hill in 5 trips. He's been really solid on the West Coast, 4 straight top 25 finishes. I think the putter will not go quite as cold as it did last year, and as a result, I really like Grillo this week. And in this matchup over Tom Kim, who was T34 last year in his Bay Hill debut, I'm not really expecting a ton out of him. He's yet to get going on the West Coast. Give me Grillo at plus money, plus 105 over Tom Kim for a 72-hole matchup.
You use the word give, and when I think of Will Gray, you're a man of the people. So give me a little bonus play that you like this week.
A history lesson, Coach. You got to go back to 1999 for the last time we've had a playoff at Bay Hill. That was lumpy Tim Herron over Tom Lehman. It's been a minute. Now, in the 24 years since then, the winner has won this tournament by exactly 1 shot 13 times. That is an offering that is plus 200 this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm no math wizard, but I know if you had bet that plus 200 for the last 24 years, you're sitting on a pretty good profit. I will go back to the well once again. I'm not sure exactly who's going to win this tournament, but I like them to win by exactly 1 shot come Sunday, plus 200.
All right, 4 bets you can sink your teeth into at the very latest on site in Orlando from GolfBet, my man, Will Gray. Now, don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the PGA Tour. And this week, all customers can add plus 300 on any golfer to win the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Download the app and use promo code RANGE when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. It is the top of the hour, high noon on the East Coast. What a gorgeous afternoon it's going to be in Orlando. This is On the Range on the Golf Channel. Mark Immelman, Will McKenzie, the coach, Robert Dameron on site for interviews. And we know this man can throw the ball. He won a World Series title in 2009. But now, Mark, the man's in shape. CC Sabathia, how can he hit the ball? Part of the Pro-Am this afternoon.
Jeez, how about those guns? I mean, he doesn't have to swing very hard with all of that thrust there he's got built in.
I remember I worked with him a couple of times, and boy, he loves the game of golf. And part of what he loved about going into retirement was the fact that he'd have more time with his family and have more time to work on his game. And Will, his swing is not half bad.
No, it's not. And you see so many of these great athletes, NHL guys, MLB guys, and football that just love to get on the golf course when they retire. They can do a little light gambling with their boys. You know, it's just the best. They big guys out there, especially in where is it? What's the one in Scottsdale? The great private golf club. Whisper Rock.
Whisper Rock.
Oh
There you
man,
go.
they have some serious games out there.
Hey, quickly.
Yeah.
I remember him being in a really loose baseball uniform. Now he's got this form-fitting stuff on. He's looking
Well,
good.
he's lost like 60 pounds or 70 pounds. So he's really got in shape after his playing days. So why wouldn't you wear stuff that really fits well? Because he's looking good, my man CC.
Got just full Nike gear. Got the Travis Scotts on.
Yeah. There's a lot of hip-hop guys that like playing as well. Well, that one was... we'll end on that one.
Hey, this is classic baseball pitchers, man. They rake them in. You know, one ball after the next. I played with a guy named Rick Ankill down in Jupiter.
Oh, I just played with him in December.
Rick's one of my best buddies down there, and he rakes them in and snap hooks them everywhere, hits it all over the map. They're just so used to releasing the hands so much in the golf, in the baseball swing.
Rick's one of the rare guys that started as an outfielder, was a pitcher as well.
Yep.
All right, let's go down to the range. Our man Robert Dameron with a very special interview. RD.
Shane Lowry here with you. I'm watching you hit some balls. You had the 2 alignment sticks down. What was that all about?
Just checking my alignment. I felt in the final round the other day down at the Cognizant that I just got a little bit open and kept on. I missed a few shots right, so just trying to check it, just get some pressure on the ball and make sure I'm hitting the ball pretty solid. And I'm happy enough with that little session before I go off in the Pro.
But it looked pretty solid to me. You were played well last week. You don't have a great record, you're telling me here this week. Is there anything that you can take positive from last week into this week?
Yeah, I mean I've played. The thing is, every year I've played well at that week last week down in Palm Beach, and I come up here every year and I struggle to find my way around the course. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going with an open mind this year. I'm just going to try and play my own game. I'm going to, try and hit as many fairways as I can. Get the ball into the middle of the green and work it from there. And hopefully I can have a better week than I've had here in the past. But it is what it is. We just we give it a go. It's obviously a huge event, and I'd love to do well, and I'd love to give myself a chance. And hopefully I can play some good golf and hold a few putts when I need to.
All right, I know you got to get going. You got a tee time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, Robert Dameron with Shane Lowry. Good positive attitude on a Wednesday. So here is the coverage plan. Of course, we start at 7:45 a.m. Eastern time for PGA Tour Live. Then here on the Golf Channel, live here at 2 p.m. Eastern time for the afternoon wave. Remember, only 69 players will tee it up this week. And Shane Lowry would love to be one of those coming down the stretch on Sunday. Now, this man, Mark Immelman, has really started to elevate his game. He's a West Coast guy as far as college is concerned, but he's now starting to show. So he's the guy that he can play anywhere.
Yeah, he can. I have a theory, though. I think bearded Thigala is better than shaven Thigala. Just saying. But as far as his golf swing goes, it's kind of his. I remember catching up with his childhood golf instructor. Name was Rick, and he said, this little man came up to me, and he had his golf clubs, and they were all too big for him. He hit the ball pretty well, but on the golf course, there was this par 3 with a tree right in the middle of the fairway. And Sahith couldn't hit the ball over the tree. So he came back to him one day, and he said, I have to learn how to curve the ball. They learned to, and that has stuck with this guy throughout his career, because when you watch him play, he's like a magician with a golf club in his hand. It's high draws, it's low fades, it's up, it's down. He hits everything all the time, and when you see him hit a straight shot, it's very rarely, but it's normally quite low. So he's always doing something with a golf ball, and he's fascinating and fun to watch.
Will, how hard is it when you do everything like what Mark just talked about, when you get into a position where you've got to call on a shot to do it?
Well, he does own that type of shots. You know, he can play it all different ways. But yeah, therein lies that problem of being such an artist with the golf ball. You know, you come down the stretch and you need to pull off that shot, and if it's something just a little off, you know, maybe it overturns or overfades a little bit. But man, he, just like he said, he's so fun to watch. This guy is like a throwback, but modern. Like, he can pound it, he can do it all. He's fun to watch. And talking about a great attitude about marketing himself. This guy is, you know, he's cool. He's great to talk to, and he's either greater to watch play golf.
I think, Mark, he is the type of player that most players should look at when it comes to marketing, when it comes to showing the world that you really enjoy the game of golf when you're actually playing the game of golf. It's a novel concept.
Yeah, I would say if there was an overarching theme to this, it's gratitude. Because whenever I've spent time around him, he's thankful for everything, everywhere he gets to go. It's like wherever he arrives, whether the golf course is in pristine condition or not, it's the greatest place he's ever played, according to him. And I feel like that, he oozes that, and the fans feel it. And then what's beautiful about him too is, you know, you can see when he's happy and you can see when he's sad. I mean, in my back of my mind, I've got the WM Phoenix Open a few years ago, where it's the perfect 2-iron down 17, final round, runs through the green, doesn't make birdie, makes bogey, comes up shy, and you see him inconsolable in his father's arms afterwards at scoring, and that's real. And if these guys are real, then they resonate with the fans, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he really, a lot of people say, should have won the Travelers. Unfortunate ending there. So he has put himself in position to win several different times. So we'll see what he can do this week in this signature event, the fourth of 8 this season on the PGA Tour. All right, the man who finished tied for second last week, he's right there, Min Woo Lee. And my goodness, has he been pretty good? So when we talk about him and the fact that he's really elevated his game, do you think it's confidence or what is it?
I think he's just got all the tools, and he's young. You know, he's getting more reps out there. He's believing in himself. He's a world player. You know, he plays all over the map. So I just think it's going to take a little time to really dial in on the PGA Tour. I'm picking him just because he played great last week, but he has a poor record here in 2 starts.
I watch Min Woo and I see a couple of things, because we both have pretty well-known siblings, both him and me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Min Woo played in his sister Min Ji's shadow for a little while. She's got the majors, she's a superstar. This man is a superstar as well, but as you watched him come up, even though he had won out on the DP World Tour and he's been successful around the globe, it's like he was raw. And he's got all of the skill and he just couldn't harness it. Baseball parlance, he had the 100-mile-an-hour fastball but couldn't throw the changeup.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
great.
As I watch him play now, I see that. I see him gearing down. I see him hitting the appropriate shot. Because it's not always that you hit a good shot. It's that you hit the correct shot on the PGA Tour. And I'm seeing him do that more and more. And that's what's keeping him in 4-round tournaments on that day when he doesn't have his best stuff.
To that point, last week, because of where the scores lied, you saw him coming down the stretch hitting really smart shots, because when you're 4 or 5 strokes behind, you've got to look at it and say, you know what? There's a lot of points and a lot of money for second or third place. He kept himself in it and will hit, 14 through 18, a lot of smart golf shots.
Yeah, through the bear trap is just really, really tough to execute those shots, even if the conditions were really nice while they came in through there on Monday morning. But I'm just impressed. Like Mark said, he's got his change up now. He's got that. He can off-speed pitch it, He can. He's real smooth with the wedge game. Once these guys that have world-class ball striking get really good with their wedge game, they start making a lot of top tens.
And usually that translates into better scoring when you can really dial the wedges back a little bit and hit from different distances. All right, we'll move away from Min-Woo Lee, head down the range.
No, Coach, we've called up the truck because there's a little something that he's doing here that this golf swing to me is almost matured in a way. And whereas the young guy, there was a lot of stuff going on, he's really battened down the hatches. So as we watch him now, we're going to slow this down. So at address, he's very fundamental, and now off he goes. So at address there, you can see him. Now we're going to take him to the top. Watch how the club just passes back. It's uninterrupted, and this is going to just sweep through the hands as the body rotates all the way to the top of the golf swing. See, so the arms now swing up, and they're in a position right there. Watch this relationship right here. You see that left arm that's above the shoulder? To me, it used to be a little higher than that, and then from there, he'd bow the wrist and get the shaft plane all the more laid off in comparison to where it is now. Look at that relationship there from the left arm basically down the shaft. So now that allows him on the downswing with all his speed to be well organized and have the club right over the button. Look at that, coming down to the golf ball. It almost lines up itself because of what he's done at the top of the swing. So from there, with all his speed, his power, his rotation and such, he can just let things go. And so when he does that, you have the freedom, Will, at a place like the champion course at PGA National, to not go, oh goodness, where's this thing going to go next? He almost knows that full bore, he's got the ball launching down his channel pretty well.
Yeah, for what we would call is he has the club in front of him the whole time of the golf swing, and that is so important. You know, Tiger kind of made that big time name, him and Butch. Keep the club in front of you at all times.
I tell you what, hard work certainly pays off, and Min-Woo Lee is one of those players. Now, let's move down the range to Eric Cole, who recently won the Arnold Palmer Trophy for the Rookie of the Year. And Mark, I was at an event with him in December, and he kind of turned into the modern day Sungjae Im. He took so long to get out here, he said, I'm going to play as many golf tournaments as I possibly can. That turned into being Rookie of the Year.
He's a wonderful young man with an incredible story. In fact, was just on my podcast here recently because I watched him play as a collegian at Nova Southeastern way back in the day. And then he's battled type 1 diabetes and Addison's disease and really has ascended to where he is just by sheer resilience, a really resolute mindset, sort of a stick-to-itiveness that I can't describe. But there was always a sense of self-belief that he had, even when he was struggling, through all those times on the mini tours and such. And you talk about playing so much, he said to me, he goes, all I'm doing right now is I'm doing exactly the same thing as what I was on the mini tours. I'm in my car, I'm going to play, it's still the same deal. The ball's going to get in the hole in as few strokes as possible. I'm doing just that. I'm just doing it for more money and more points right now.
All right, my man Robert Damron is on the range, and he's going to talk to our man Eric Cole. RD.
Eric, just a minute ago, you had your 4-iron taken away to add a 1/4 inch to it. What in the world is going on with that?
Yeah, just my 4-iron goes a little shorter than I'd like it to, just gapping wise. So we tried to lengthen it a little, and it just went a little too long. So now we're cutting it back down, kind of halfway between where it was originally and where we tried it out.
All right, so I notice you're looking at all your numbers, checking it out with the driver. What are you looking for specifically when you're hitting drivers on the range?
Well, I'd like it to be as fast as possible, but for me, I'm just really looking to make sure that my ball's starting where I want it to, and hopefully not curving too much, making sure that the spin's where it's supposed to be. So just kind of use it as a tool. Don't get too caught up in it, but use it a little bit to look at.
Is this the most important club in the bag this week?
Probably, yeah. If you don't drive it well here, you're going to have a long, tough day out there, and the rough is long this year, maybe even longer than I've seen it in the past. So it's good. It's a great test, and I think whoever has a good week will definitely be playing the best.
Being a big Arnold Palmer fan, as you and I are, how cool is it to have your name on that Arnold Palmer Trophy Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's such a huge honor for anyone to have won an award with his name on it, but for my connection with him, being lucky enough to spend time with him out here, just makes it even more special, and it's just just an incredible thing that's kind of hard to put into words.
All right, get back to it. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, like a lot of players, you got it hit in the fairway. This man right here, he's hit a lot of fairways the last 3 years. Tied for 4th. He won here a couple of years ago and T15 last year. He is the best player in the world. Scottie Scheffler on the range. We are live on the Golf Channel. We're back on the range here on Golf Channel. Who can forget a couple of years ago, Mark Immelman, this was Scottie Scheffler getting the job done.
Yeah, look at the color of that green there in contrast to the rough, certainly in the fairways. This place was playing hard and par was golden. And this putt is probably the longest putt you can find on Bay Hill. And under all that pressure, there he goes. Yeah, I was happy with that.
Will, since the start of the 2021-2022 seasons, 19 top 3 finishes on tour.
Yeah, just incredible what Scottie's done. He's proven so consistent, even with that inconsistent footwork. Amazing what this guy can do.
4 past champions in the field this week. Kurt Kitayama, he has yet to miss a cut this season. Scheffler, Rory in 2018, and of course Jason Day. Let's go back on the range. And Mark, what is Scottie trying to work on right here?
Well, you can see the alignment rods. That's just a giveaway that he's aiming, working on alignment and body aim, and certainly club face position. But what you don't see is this man in his golf bag has an old 5-iron with a molded grip on it, a formed grip. And if you watch him, you can see how he checks the position on his hands before he hits every single shot. He doesn't waver. Every round, even before tournament rounds, he pulls out that 5-iron with a molded grip, he puts his hands on it, and he hits balls like that for like 10 minutes. And then you watch him, every single one. Even though there might be alignment or something he's working on, watch him. He'll do the same thing. The club's up in front of him, he checks where his hands are, because your hands on the golf club, that's your only connection with a club head, and the club head messages the golf ball. So if you've got a faulty connection, then you're going to have to modify or compensate to get the ball to go on line. Watch, he's going to do the same thing every time.
Will, recently, Rory McIlroy was doing an interview, and he was talking about Scottie Scheffler. And he said if he can figure out his putting and become a really good putter, it's almost going to become unfair out here for the rest of us to try and compete with Scottie Scheffler. When you watch him, he's got the new beard going on, he's got scruff going on. What makes him right now the greatest player in the game?
It must be come from within. And like Mark said, old school is Randy Smith. his golf coach. So this right here is all fundamentals. We're talking alignment, railroad tracks, two alignments. He knows where the ball's coming out every time. Grip, does that same thing every time, gets it in the fingers, more in the fingers. He's got big hands. He's got that thing, it's like a twig in his hand. Does the same thing every time, and he's a better athlete than you probably think.
I cannot echo what you say because you've said it so well. I'll say this. You and I, Will, you've hit the ball at the highest level. You're one of the best, right? When I walk up and down ranges and I know I can speak on your behalf, there's certain golfers you'll just stop and you'll watch them hit. And you watch Scottie off the golf course, and he's kind of like, oh, shucks, it's just me, Scottie Scheffler. But when he's on the range with the golf club in his hand, the way that golf ball comes out is heavenly. And I stop every single time to watch how consistently, solidly he hits the golf ball.
Now he's getting a club with a head on it. Some notable finishes from last season. We continue to watch Scottie Scheffler on the range. And look at all the different players and where they finished in this event. And when you have this many stars, Will, not all of them are in form, but a lot are.
Yeah, a lot haven't played a ton. You know, they're playing just the biggest of the biggest events right now, and maybe throw a couple in there. But man, they've got a big test in front of them. They're all going to play here. They're all going to play Players.
And this man is still trying to find his form in 2024. We will talk Ricky Fowler and watch him on the range when we come back live right here on the Golf Channel. Time now for Let It Fly, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. And Will McKenzie, you're our resident expert. You dig deep. You find the biggest value. I'm going to let you go first.
I didn't have to dig deep for Min-Woo Lee. I like him. He's trending coach. Top 5 plus 800, I believe.
Yes.
I like the bet. He's trending good. He played great at the Players last year, too. So I think this is his run. Better value bet for me than even Scottie Scheffler winning the tournament at plus 650.
I like how you make that comparison. Min-Woo Lee, it seems like he's been on every single leaderboard every single week. All right, Mark, I'm going to come over to you. You love nationality bets. It's your thing. What'd you find?
I do, but in all honesty, I did consider for a long time. I looked at Matt Fitzpatrick, Fitzy, over Jordan Spieth and Sam Burns in a 3-ball. The number was plus 180, but then for value, I just could not avert my eyes off Ben An as low Asian this week at plus 360. Ben has to knock off Hideki, obviously winner earlier this season. CT Pan, there's rumor that he's struggling with injury. Siwoo Kim and Sung Jae, who I thought really struggled last week. The only guy to really beat, I think, who's trending is Tom Kim. But Ben An lives in Orlando. He's a ball striker of biblical proportion. With that new broom handle putter, he is dynamite on the greens. I feel like around Bay Hill, he is a lock.
Oh, and he nearly won in Hawaii earlier this year. So I'm going to go next, and this is my ode to Mark Immelman, as they like to say. I'm also going to go with a nationality bet. For me, there's only 3 players involved in this, however. So I love it. Plus 400, Justin Rose. All he's got to do is beat Tommy Fleetwood and Matthew Fitzpatrick. Now, it's not going to be easy, but I like guys that are really good in the U.S. Open, really hard courses. Justin Rose, he's a former U.S. Open champion. So I love him. Value, you lose that word, plus 400. Now, Robert Dameron, we're coming out to you there in O-Town of Bay Hill. Where are you going today?
Well, I've got a little 2-man top 5 parlay going at plus 750. Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy. They were both top 5. You will win that bet. Now, this is at Ball Strikers Paradise. We know that. Who strikes it better than Scottie and Rory? Nobody. This is deep, deep, deep rough. Who's stronger and better out of the deep rough than Scottie and Rory? Nobody. And also, whose name is already on this trophy? Scottie and Rory. So, Coach, I'm loving that at plus 750.
I absolutely love that play, too. Scottie, T4, a win. T15 last year, man. Both guys fantastic on this golf course. Do not forget, DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the PGA Tour. And this week, new customers can deposit $5 and get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Download the app and use promo code RANGE when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Let's say it's 20 yards.
Welcome back on the range here on the Golf Channel. One of the great stories of 2024, Nick Dunlap, the first amateur to win on the PGA Tour, Mark Immelman, since all the way back in the early 90s. Then he took a week off, and he says, you know what, Alabama, I love you, but I'm going pro.
Yeah, he was. The tide was rolling out onto the West Coast when he arrived, and he came with a lot of fanfare, as you would expect. But he took it in his stride, but then he sort of struggled a little bit, missed the cut, and then I texted his coach, Jay Sewell, and I'm like, give me some advanced insight on Nick Dunlap. I've never watched him play. And Coach Sewell, who's seen them come and go, he's had Justin Thomas play for him, and he's like, this kid's good. He's just come back home. He's just got everything arranged. He's practiced some, and he's feeling good about his game again.
This was the putt to win the American Express, and Will, what an up and down he made. Got a little bit of a break, hit a fan, but still he had to get up and down. Sam Burns went double-double, and Nick Dunlap, Justin Thomas was there. How big of a win under those conditions was that?
Oh, it hadn't been done many times before. I mean, what, 2 times?
Yeah.
I think Phil Mickelson and who else won as an AM. But anyway, it's just incredible. Then he has to go home. Am I going to stay in college or am I going to turn pro? Of course you got to turn pro. You know, he's got these signature events coming up. He's a super talent. The people I've talked to said he has all the game in the world. Might as well go ahead and start your pro career early.
Mark, what do you think is going to be the biggest struggle for him starting his career out in these big events?
The professional golfer, to me, deals with a bit of a syndrome. It's not a syndrome, I'm calling it this, is where they feel like they've got to justify their first victory. And so as a result, you start to maybe change things. You maybe get away from who you are, your personality as a player. All he's got to do, in my opinion, is try and remain true to who he is, just hitting each shot on its merit, allowing the results to come to him, just like he did en route to the victory at the American Express. Because if he starts to chase this fictitious thing to try and get the second victory, sometimes you can kind of get the cart before the horse.
But he does have one thing, Will, that a lot of young rookies don't have. And he's got his tour card for almost 3 years. It's essentially 2 3/4 years. So he doesn't even have to worry about getting into events, this guaranteed money. So he kind of almost has a, what do they call it, a parachute almost, that he can just go out and play.
Yeah, the only thing he needs to do is worry about is not hitting the last shot he just hit. Because he's got all the time in the world. Make sure his team is tight, which I'm sure it is. Don't change anything. Stay with your same golf coach. Stay with the same people around you. Make sure that wrist is okay. We see a taped wrist job. So get your physio dialed in. This guy works really hard off the course. You can tell he's a pretty strapping fella. So yeah, take care of your body. And if he changes caddies, he's got Kevin Canning, I see there sitting in the middle. That's looks like his agent. He looks like he's staying with the same caddy. That's fine.
Try not to hit anymore.
Play with the right people, Justin Thomases and the Jordan Spieths. They want to play with this guy, and let them usher him around. First year's okay. He don't have to go blow it up open right yet.
Well, you can see there, Will, to that effect. His caddy's name, by the way, is Hunter Hamrick, who's a good player in his own right. He likes to hit a fade shot, Nick Dunlap, and you can see him challenging the left side of the driving range with the trees down there, just to kind of give yourself something to play off, because last week we had him out there on PGA Tour Live, and he blew a few tee shots way out to the right-hand side. He was just a shot off the lead at the time. He was coming off the hole in one, and then lost the handle on the golf swing desperately. And then you see him hitting 1 or 2 quick lefts. This is a guy right now who's really working hard to try and dial that driver, because we've heard it said from just about everyone right now, you're going to have to drive the ball well to play well this week.
Yep, and that's the drive he wants. That last one we just saw, 305 carry, not a ton of turn, baby left to right, over 180 miles per hour ball speed. That's what he has. That he's worked so hard, but is God-given as well, and he will be just fine with that ball flight.
And guys, even though the king is no longer with us, his presence is always here at Bay Hill, and young guys like Nick Dunlap, you got to believe they would love to win this one. But the one thing that Arnold Palmer was all about was owning his swing, his very specific swing, and that big high finish. Gentlemen, I'm going to send it over to you.
Thanks, Coach. Well, as the king said, you've got to swing your swing, not some idea of the swing, Will Mackenzie. You've played in this event at the highest level. Elaborate on that for me, please.
Oh, my gosh, man. You got, just like you said, you got to own whatever you do. And Mr. Palmer's was kind of unique, but there's some things in there that are very, very consistent, fundamentally sound. And you're going to tell us from the get-go, it's the grip.
Well, first off, you can see here we just got some footage of him from the front and down the line. And just how about the sound of the swish of the club, that persimmon driver. colliding with a golf ball and sending it out there at high speed. So here, breaking it down, you can see his hands over there. His father, Deacon Palmer, who was a professional, said to him, he's like, son, he showed him how to hold the golf club, and he said, don't you ever change that position. There's the close-up. And we were talking about that, Will, with Scottie Scheffler.
Yep. Yeah, fundamentals are key. I battled a weak grip, but once you get that grip neutral, where it's in the fingers, you can really hinge the golf club and put so much. That's the proper way to really get a great release.
And you can see their ball slightly forward in the stance with a persimmon driver. That thing's small back in the day over there. That's setting him up to really sweep the club away from the golf ball, get a powerful wind up, square the club face, and hit the ball really, really hard. So as we take him away, you pointed out that the club drug in behind himself a little bit more than most.
Yeah, that was typical to the era. To get the swing deep, they went with a much deeper right hip back then, which has become modern now.
Yeah.
For a while, we kept the hips
and
tight.
Speaking of modern, how about that position of the wrist and the club at the top of the swing?
Beautiful left wrist at the top, beautiful club face mirroring that.
And that sets up the downswing. So watch from here now. You can see those positions. He's got the left wrist in the face matching the big wind up in the core. Now the lower body's going to lead. It's going to turn out of the way. And watch how the arms now just start to sort of follow the unwind of the body on the way down. See the body open up, arms in front. Look at this area right over here. The hips are opening. No early extension there. How about contact now? Now I want you to watch that forward foot. You can see he's unwinding, clearing out, arms in front of the body. You love that.
Beautiful.
But you've heard of ground reaction forces? The King did that stuff before they named it. Watch this over here.
Absolutely. He's going in there, he's pushing out of the ground so hard that the whole toe of his golf shoe goes up and almost starts pointing at the target.
Sensational stuff. The arms are in front. Watch that forward foot now in the circle. The circle will evaporate. Look at the down the line view. I know you want to look at the front of the swing, but watch how the left foot's going to completely pivot and move away, almost like shucks, every modern player nowadays. You think of a Justin Thomas. They get to contact, they're using the ground, they're pushing up, they're using leverage. It's not just rotation, it's the vertical forces as well. And back in the day, the King didn't have a launch monitor or a pressure shift mat or anything like that to do that. He was just an athlete with an understanding of how to spin the golf ball, and he hit the thing as hard as he could. He played boldly to win.
Yeah, and a great athlete he was. I mean, football player coming up, obviously just so strong. Mr. Palmer's unbelievable mitts. I've shook that hand a few times, and man, it just devoured my little baby hand. So, what a legend. Rest in peace. We miss you, buddy.
Love you, King. We miss you.
Well, look at the career. Fascinating stuff, gentlemen. Of the great Arnold Palmer, 62 PGA Tour wins, 7 major titles, won 10 times on the PGA Tour champions, and all the way back in 1974. The building that is right next to us, it's moved around a few times, but the World Golf Hall of Fame inductee. And probably one of the things he's most proud of is that 2004 Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. Now, this man has made Florida his home for pretty much his entire career. He loves playing this event, but gentlemen, right now, Ricky Fowler, after really having a comeback, he's not having a good start to his season. Mark, why do you think that is?
Oh, well, you know, there's a lot on the go in the Fowler household. You know, he's got a little kid. He said to me he's chasing little Maya around the place all the time, and he's loving it. And you speak of legends. Jack Nicklaus said the same thing of a young Tiger Woods. He goes, you know, Tiger is great now. Wait till he's a dad and he's a husband, and all those other things are brought to bear. So maybe the focus gets detracted a little bit. But I almost feel like when Ricky was down in the slump, and he was working hard in the game and changing the swing, and then he hooked up with Butch. Then eventually he gets the win in Detroit last year at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. It's like he had found his way to the top of the mountain. What you got to do, Will, when you get there is enjoy the view, because you guys find another mountain to climb, right? Where it's like Ricky just said, I've done it, let me take a breath. But he's back in the saddle right now. I liked what I saw last week.
Yeah, with the wife, the kid. The off season, he probably took a little time off. And once he gets back out here, this is where your office is. So this is where he's probably really going to put forth the long yards, because doing them at home, you just don't really have as much time. Yeah, you could leave the wife and the family at the house and just go grind at Bears Club all day. That's not what he's going to do.
anybody, and all three of us are dads, it is, luckily right now I get to play with mine. He's 13. But if I had to leave the house for 6 or 8 hours a day to go grind as a professional golfer, knowing my family was at home and I could spend time with them, it'd be a hard thing to do, Mark.
Priorities, priorities, priorities. And on Ricky's golf bag, he's got a bag tag. It's an AJGA bag tag. That's the American Junior Golf Association. Right. With his daughter Maya Fowler's name on there. And I can't remember the graduation year, but it's a long ways in the future. And so, look, that's a part of who he is. Now, as we watch the golf swing, I felt like it looked a little loose, but then last week he started to hit little draws, and you can see the waggle going inwards a bit more. When he took on that draw shape, I felt like things really tightened up, because when he went to the fade, he seemed jammed, he seemed late on everything, and the ball just wasn't hit with authority. But then when he started to draw it, it was money, Coach.
Well, you can see him right now getting that swing dialed in. And, boy, I love that straight line. Our tracer technology is always provided by the good people from TrackMan.
Yeah, those are great numbers. 172 mile per hour ball speed, 7 feet of curve. That looks like a frozen rope. Flying 298, just under 300. That'll get it done for Ricky.
Yeah, the one thing I've always appreciated about Ricky is he always looks smooth. I mean, he's got the hat on a Wednesday. He's got the umbrella on it. He's always thinking. He's got the good people behind him at Puma Cobra. I like players that think about marketing. I call it the game within the game, Mark.
He's a master, that sort of stuff. Yeah. But you know what? You can see it in his comportment, in the demeanor. But Ricky Fowler is a quality human being. And the game is one thing, but it's who you are off the golf course. And Ricky, to me, that's why he's so valuable to all these companies, because he treats everybody the same. He is not a respecter of titles whatsoever. He'll speak to the camera operator and the president the same way. He'll speak to me and to big shots like Will McKenzie the same way. He's just that sort of a guy.
Yeah, that's, I don't want to say it's rare these days, but he's just one of those guys. He's the golden child. He's just too cool for school. He always gives all the autographs to the kids. He goes above and beyond, and that's just, I love it.
He learned from the king about giving the time for the autographs and such.
And make sure those autographs are legible.
You can read them. Yeah.
You're damn right. Oh. Speaking of a man who was very, very close to Arnold Palmer, let's send it back down to Robert Dameron with Min Woo Lee. RD.
I'm here with Min Woo Lee. We've been watching you hit some balls. Actually, you had kind of a unique practice session there. You would hit a driver, a draw, then go back to an iron, check the numbers, then hit a driver, big cut, go back and check the numbers. What was going on there?
Yeah, no, it's just a game. I mean, I'm trying to get it within a target zone. Let's say it's 20-yard wide fairway on both sides, left and right, and if I get it in, then I can go on to the next one, and if I don't, then I got to hit an iron shot. So it's just a game to get me in the zone, and I've done that for the last few weeks, and it's paid off last week.
Yeah, very good. You did play very, very well last week. Any of that confidence, even though it's such a different golf course, any of that confidence come into Bay Hill? I know you don't have the best record here.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like part of the schedule, I guess, and if we did get in, we were still unsure if we wanted to play this event, just because, I don't have the best record here, but, I played well last year at the Players, and I missed the cut here. So it was kind of good prep going into Players. I had a couple days where I could, actually practice before the tournament. And yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go out there and enjoy it. I feel like I'm a better player than last year and the year before. And yeah, I guess it kind of got to my head a little bit. This course is tough, and I mean, the thickest rough I've probably ever played. So it's just one of those courses where you got to drive it well, or else it is brutal, and I have experienced that. So it's a learning curve.
You said you played really well at the Players last year. You played very well last week at West Palm Beach. What is it about Florida golf that you like so much?
I don't know. Maybe the taxes.
Yeah, those.
No, I don't know. I think I just had 2 really good weeks of practice in Vegas, and played with Colin and Kurt a lot. Obviously, they're world-class players, so I got to learn a bit off them and have some competition with them. So yeah, I think something just about having a block of practice, and yeah, I don't know about Florida. It's nice.
It is nice. All right, thanks very much. Good luck this week. You'll turn it around here, and back to you in the studio, Coach.
Thank you, RD. Those hard-hitting questions, Mark.
Well, Ben, we're nice to see you. We know you're not very good around here, but it's nice to see you.
Boy, what a great personality that young kid has, man, and understands where he's at coming off a second-place finish last week. Now, gentlemen, you guys know this is one of my picks to click this week. Justin Rose, my top Englishman. He has to be Tommy Fleetwood and Matthew Fitzpatrick, but we know, Mark, that he plays hard golf courses very well.
He made good strides last week, I thought. I was chatting with him on the range, and as always, he's evergreen. You know, he's working on the golf swing as diligently as what he did back in his 20s. And he was telling me, you can see the launch monitor there to his right, that you can see the rehearsal where he's trying to get the arms deeper. When he's at his best, he actually has a slightly fading path to his golf swing. He's always trying to tighten that up. And out there last week, he was sort of in between a draw, which is what he's trying to do, and the fade, which is when he was off. And it looked to me like there was just a little unsurety, but he definitely started to find a groove with a path and with the delivery of the driver especially. So the guy used to live down in this area at Lake Nona. The way he plays the mind, he has that major championship mind. You would feel like he'd find a way to be in contention.
Will, is there a certain mindset or game that is adaptable to Florida golf?
Well, it plays differently when we don't have rough. It just plays so differently than when we do have this huge overseeded rye. So when you have that overseeded rye, it's more like a northern grass. So you got to keep it in play. You just can't hit it out very well. You don't get the normal Bermuda jumpers. You get this like shot you almost have to wedge out. So the key is hitting it in play as much as possible around Bay Hill, or like Minwoo said, you're gonna suffer and you're gonna shoot several over par.
You can see there's Coach, the guy raising his arm to the air. That's Mark Blackburn, Teacher of the Year last year, the PGA Teacher of the Year, alongside is Mark Fulcher, longtime caddy for Justin Rose, amongst other folks. And Rosie is hooked up with Blackburn, and I feel like they've done some really good work together.
Well, as they continue to discuss things and get ready for their tee time on Thursday, let's go back to last year and kind of the arrival of this man right here, Kurt Kitayama. He's been playing all over the world, guys, and he gets to the 2023 API. And Mark, he really hit some good shots down the stretch.
Well, conditions were tough again, and you can see those greens got that tan shade, and nobody was getting the ball close on 17. But he hits the ball just so high. He's small, but he's powerful. That allowed him to get one in there close. And this putt right here was fantastic. Sort of iced the event for me.
He'd kind of been known on the DP World Tour, but now he has cemented himself. Clearly, he's got his tour card. He's the champion. And, Will, he has yet to miss a cut in 2024.
Yeah, this kid is all world. Got a great, look at this attitude. He's hooked up with Tim Tucker. I think it's huge that he hooked up with Tim because he was a rookie. He's one of the only rookies that have won this event. Not many rookies ever win. You need a little experience around Bay Hill. But Tim, I believe Tim had won with Bryson already. So Tim guided him around. He made that one mistake on hole number 9 coming down the stretch, and then just somehow hung in there with those valiant shots. Just stoic competitor. I really like this guy. They called him Squatzilla or something in college. He is very strong. Not tall, but very strong.
If he does miss, the driver gets a little late and hits a wide right.
Yep.
But otherwise, to me, it's almost like this golf swing has matured and tightened up as well. And that big wild one he brought onto the tour as a young man seems to be going away.
And you talk about tough. Listen to this stat, guys. He was the first player since 1983 to have a 7 in the 3rd and 4th round and go on to win. That's guts.
Yeah, just overcoming adversity out there. You have to have that short-term memory if you're going to last out here on the tour, and especially if you're going to win. There's one he'll forget about.
That's the wide right.
That's the wide right one you just alluded to.
But what you bring up there, Coach, with the triples or the 7s on rounds 3 and 4, right?
Yes.
That's the one thing about this golf course and this tournament you can almost get away with, because when you're playing in some birdie bonanza and you make triple, you lose trillions to the field. Whereas you can make a big misstep here, but because the score stays close to par, if I just stay in it, I pick off the odd birdie, I get back to par slightly better, you're still in the game.
I think numbers are fascinating. Last week, Austin Eckroat won his first Will.
That's not funny, man.
Not on Wednesday, it's not funny. So Eckroat won his first PGA Tour win in his 50th start. Last year, Kurt Kitayama, this was his 50th start on the PGA Tour, and he got his first win.
Last week, Austin Eckroat, 50th start as well, first win. Rory McIlroy wasn't the first win. Ernie else has done it. Sung J.M.
A lot of guys. Well, right now, we've seen some players today, and this is why they warm up on a Wednesday, is we've seen some errant shots and trying to get it dialed in for sure. But Kurt Kitayama, it's different when the target is on your back than if you come in under the radar like he did a year ago. So we'll see how he responds this year to being, one of the main guys, a lot of attention, a lot of TV time. But so far, 5 for 5 this season in cuts made on the very difficult PGA Tour.
That's more like it.
Yeah. He's missing the cut on the range today. That's so far.
Do not forget that on Thursday, coverage right here on the Golf Channel begins at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll have a lot of the afternoon wave. If you want to see the morning, of course, 7:45 a.m. Me and Mark will be on the main feed, PGA Tour Live on ESPN+. We're here till the top of the hour. We're live on Golf Channel. Welcome back. We're on the range here on Golf Channel. Just here for a few more minutes till the top of the hour. Mark, Will, the coach. And the afternoon wave pro-am has really gotten started. So most of these players, guys, are just guys that are trying to work on their game before they go home and get some rest.
What, Kurt Kitayama and the left and right's going on? What does that feel like the day before a tournament?
Yes, Will.
The good old Army golf. I had it several times. Doesn't feel good on a Wednesday afternoon, I can tell you that.
Well, there's been a lot of great moments over the years here at the API, and I would love to go back. And maybe the best finish of all time, 1990, Robert Gomez.
Gotta be pings. Look like big ping I2s.
That looked like a 2.
Is there a better way? Are you kidding me? That might be, other than a hole-in-one, the best way to finish and win a golf tournament. Look at the crowd going absolutely bananas.
On that 18th hole, too, because that green is so visually daunting.
How about 2004? And it was just one of the great moments for Arnie.
Oh, absolutely love this. I mean, just right up the gauntlet with a little baby cut. as that green just caroms from left to right, gets closer and closer for the king. Just great moments. That is an unbelievable memory right there. Lives on.
Well, the man who knows literally every twist, turn, bump, hump at this golf course is, of course, the man who stood there with Arnie so many times, Tiger Woods. Mark, 2008, the same year that he won the U.S. Open.
Grandstand finish from the big cat. He's the master of the exclamation point, isn't he?
Certainly is. That's just incredible. No one could do it like G. Gray. I mean, he is so fun. He was so fun to watch, so fun to be in the tournament with him in.
Then the very next year, 2009, it was getting very dark. And remember, that was after knee surgery. How healthy would he be? Well, pretty healthy.
He's got jokes too.
King loved that one. King loved it. He's got plenty of cardigans as well.
That was 2013, two of the greats of all time. And then Rory in 2018 finally getting it done for himself.
Yeah, he had a few putts to win, but why not just take one? Got to do it for the crowds, huh?
It's hard to believe there was once a time where he didn't even come to play this particular tournament. Then he got right, and it's very important to him now.
It's not everyone's cup of tea because it is a brutal test.
Well, he is one of 4 past champions in the field this week. He will join Jason Day. Scottie won in 22, and then Kurt Kiyama last year.
You can see the variation in scores there. I expect, even though the golf course is sort of receptive given the rains we've had in Florida, if you don't find the fairway, bogeys are going to happen in the blink of an eye. So par, as always, to me, is going to be a decent score.
You know, we talked about this rough. Everyone says it's brutally thick, maybe even more than in years past.
There you see some of the notable pairings. Spieth is playing with Xander, Rory, Colin Morikawa in the afternoon. So we'll be here all day on PGA Tour Live, but of course live here on the Golf Channel. We only have about a minute left here until the top of the hour. So Mark, as we head into tomorrow, another API, what do you expect?
I expect a complete test. The king always wanted it. You've got to hit every shot in the bag. You've got to make putts, and you've got to be able to hit the right shot at the right time. So I feel like just a complete test for the players.
And Will, this is the second of 4 events on the Florida swing, but also next week is the Players. So a lot of guys, every guy, wants to have their game right here tomorrow.
Well, I tell you, the guys do not want it to be blowing and cold here because then you got back-to-back brutal tests. So they're hoping the weather's nice, and then they can just have a good, solid week here at Bay Hill.
If you're looking for -20, this is not the golf tournament for you. A difficult test, but it's going to be a whole lot of fun. We'll be here live tomorrow morning, 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. live here on the Golf Channel. For Mark, for Will, for our entire crew, I am the coach. Can't wait. This has been On the Range. We will see you tomorrow.